Commander Daniel Hayes stood at the observation window of the Pathfinder and looked at the massive mothership approaching through space. The ship was the size of a small moon, its metal surface glowing with strange blue lights. He had been waiting for this moment for 3 months. First contact with the was finally going to happen. Daniel was 42 years old, tall, with dark hair and a strong face marked by years of military service. He had led Earth's defense forces for the past 8 years and had trained to handle alien contact situations, but nothing had really prepared him for what he was about to face. They were known throughout the galaxy as a cold and powerful race. They had superior technology, superior weapons, and superior numbers. Every species that had dealt with them before described the same thing. They believed they were better than everyone else. They treated other species like humans treated animals, not with cruelty always, but with a distance that made it clear they saw themselves as the only ones that truly mattered. The Pathfinder's communication officer spoke through the intercom. "The shuttle is approaching the docking bay now, sir. Queen and her delegation will arrive in 10 minutes. Daniel took a deep breath. He had read everything he could find about culture and behavior. Their queens were different from their workers. Queens were born with greater intelligence and stronger bodies. They were trained from birth to lead and to rule. Had been the queen of the empire for 23 years. When the delegation entered the ship, Daniel was standing in the reception area with other human leaders. They had arranged everything carefully. The walls were clean. The lights were set to a level that would be comfortable for the. They had even prepared food that matched the temperature and chemical composition of food as closely as they could calculate. Queen entered first. She was nothing like Daniel had imagined. The data files and images did not do her justice. She was almost 7 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shift between shades of silver and blue. Her body was built for power and speed, with muscles visible beneath her thin, tight suit. But what struck Daniel the hardest was the way she moved. Every step was controlled. Every movement was exact. She was like a dancer or a predator or both at the same time. Her eyes were large and black, with no whites like human eyes. When she looked at a person, she did not look away quickly. She examined them the way a scientist examines something under a microscope. And when those eyes fell on Daniel, he felt them taking him apart, searching for something he could not name. Did not shake hands or bow. She stood in the middle of the reception area and spoke without emotion. Her voice was smooth, but had a quality that made the hair on Daniel's neck stand up. These are my advisors and my guards. You will show us your technology. You will explain your systems. Then we will discuss what comes next." It was not a request, it was an order. Daniel stepped forward. Protocol said he should welcome her first, offer her comfort, make her feel safe. But something in his presence made that seem foolish. Instead, he simply nodded. "Welcome to the Pathfinder, Queen. I am Commander Daniel Hayes. I will personally guide you through our ship." The Queen studied him for a moment longer. Then she turned to the nearest wall display showing the ship systems. She asked question after question. Why was the power system designed this way? Why did the humans use this type of material for the walls? What was the purpose of the communication array? As Daniel answered her questions, he noticed something strange. Was not looking for weakness in the human systems. She was not laughing at them or showing pity. She was genuinely interested. She wanted to understand how humans thought and worked. Over the next few hours, Daniel showed her the engine room, the weapons systems, the medical bay, and the command center. Examined everything carefully. She asked technical questions that showed a deep understanding of engineering, but she also asked other kinds of questions. "What is the purpose of this?" she asked, pointing to a photo Daniel kept in the command center. It showed a group of children playing in a park. Daniel hesitated. That is a recreational space where children gather to play and learn from each other. "Why do humans invest so much time and energy in their offspring?" asked. "Children are important to us. They are the future. We protect them and teach them because we want them to become strong and healthy adults. Looked at the photo for a long time without speaking. Then she asked, "Do humans feel emotion when they are separated from their children?" Daniel was surprised by the question. "Yes, it causes pain. Humans need their families. We are not complete without the people we love." The Queen said nothing. She turned away from the photo and continued her inspection of the ship. When the official meetings finally began, was quiet. She listened while the human leaders explained what they wanted from the protection from other hostile species, trade agreements, technology sharing, all the things that humanity hoped would come from this first contact. Listened to everything. Then she gave her response. "The Empire will consider your requests, but first I must study your civilization more carefully. I must understand how you think and why you think that way. For this reason, I wish to speak with your military leader alone, Commander Hayes, not as a diplomat, as a warrior." The other human leaders looked at each other, confused. Daniel also was surprised, but he agreed immediately. "Of course, Queen, we can arrange private meetings whenever you wish." That night, Daniel could not sleep. He kept thinking about strange questions about children and family. He thought about the way she had looked at him during the reception. He did not know it yet, but this was the moment his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. The queen of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy was about to ask him a question that would shake the foundations of everything he believed about his place in the universe. The Pathfinder continued its orbit around the mothership. In her private chamber aboard her enormous vessel, reviewed genetic data. She was searching for something that her species had lost, and she was beginning to believe she had found it. The private meetings between Daniel and happened every day for 5 days straight. They did not meet on the Pathfinder anymore. Instead, invited Daniel to her chambers aboard the mothership. He was nervous the first time, but when he arrived, he found that she had arranged the room to make him comfortable. Human temperature, human lighting, and even human-style chairs placed around a large table. But did not sit in a human chair. She stood while Daniel sat, and she asked him question after question, not about weapons or technology, but about human nature itself. "Why do humans form emotional bonds?" she asked. "Because we need each other. We cannot survive alone. Other species need community, but they do not feel the deep emotional connections that humans do. Why?" Daniel tried to explain how human children were born helpless and needed years of care. How that care created bonds between parents and children that lasted a lifetime. How those bonds extended to other family members and eventually to entire communities. Listened carefully. Then she moved to her next question. "You told me that you would protect your family even if it meant your own death. Why would you do this?" "Because they matter more to me than I matter to myself." "That is illogical," said. "Maybe," Daniel agreed, "but it is true." By the 4th day, Daniel began to understand that these were not random questions, was searching for something specific. And she was going through his answers like someone looking through a database, examining each one carefully, comparing it to information she already had. On the 5th day, finally revealed why she had been asking these questions. "Come with me," she said. She led Daniel to a different chamber, one filled with screens and data displays. "I must tell you something that no human knows. It will change how you see your own species." She began to explain. The civilization had existed for 12,000 years. For most of that time, they had been successful. They had conquered other worlds. They had mastered technology that humans were still centuries away from understanding. But 300 years ago, something had begun to go wrong. "We became perfect," said. "We genetically modified ourselves to remove what we saw as weaknesses. We removed the need for large families. We removed emotional attachment. We removed the desire to protect young for extended periods. These things we saw as primitive, as belonging to younger species." She showed him medical records and population charts. The result is that most can no longer have children naturally. Our birth rate has dropped by 90%. We do not reproduce enough to maintain our civilization. Daniel listened, shocked. What happened? We tried to fix it by using genetic material from other species. We tried this 17 times with 17 different alien races. Every time, the result was the same. The offspring were weak. They did not survive. They lacked something that the pure alien genetics should have given them. Move to a new screen. This one showed human genetic data compared to data. I have studied human genetics for years, continued. Humans have survived on a world that wants to kill them. Humans have survived diseases that destroyed civilizations. Humans have survived wars that reduced populations by billions. And each time, you survived because of something in your genes. Something that allows you to adapt, to heal, to change in ways that other species cannot. You call it resilience. Daniel began to understand where this was going, and his stomach felt cold. What are you asking me? He said quietly. Turned to look at him directly. I am asking if you will have a child with me. I am asking if you will give your genetic material so that I can bear a child that might carry your species' incredible adaptability combined with my species' intelligence and strength. I am asking if you will help save my civilization. Daniel could not speak. He could not move. He stared at, trying to make sense of what she had said. I understand this is unexpected, said. You have many questions. I will answer them. But first you must understand something else. She moved to him. She was so tall that when she stood near him, she had to look down slightly to see his face. She raised one of her long fingers and touched his chest, right where his heart was. I have studied your species for years through data and images, but only in the past 5 days meeting with you have I truly understood what makes humans remarkable. It is not their strength, though they are stronger than my people gave them credit for being. It is not their intelligence, though they are clever in ways that are different from intelligence. It is this: the ability to care for something outside of themselves, the ability to feel emotion deeply, the ability to protect someone they love, even when it costs them everything. Paused. In culture, this is considered weakness. We are taught that such emotions are proof of lower thinking. But watching you, speaking with you, I have come to believe that you are right and we are wrong. Your way is not weak. It is the most powerful force in the galaxy, and it is what my species has lost. Daniel felt something break open inside him. You are asking me to help you have a child, but you are also asking me something else. Yes, said simply. I am asking you to see me not as an alien or as a queen, but as someone who has begun to believe in a different way of living. I am asking if you are willing to create life with someone who comes from a civilization that has treated your people with contempt. I am asking if humans have enough in them to believe in change, even in those who seem least likely to change. Daniel looked at this tall, powerful alien woman who stood before him. He saw her for what she really was, not a cold ruler seeking a biological solution to her civilization's problem, but a being who had risked everything to think for herself. And he knew that his answer would change the future of both their species. Yes, he said, I will help you. And in that moment, both of them understood that this was no longer just a biological question. This was the beginning of something much larger. Something that would challenge everything both their civilizations believed about what was possible. The moment Daniel agreed to his proposal, everything became complicated. He returned to the Pathfinder and immediately called an emergency meeting with Earth's government representatives. He explained what had asked him to do, and the response was not what he expected. The political leaders were divided into 3 groups. The first group saw this as the greatest opportunity humanity had ever received. They believed that if Daniel agreed to have a child with the Queen, it would cement humanity's place among the galaxy's major powers. Trade agreements would follow. Military protection would follow. Humanity would become equals with the instead of being seen as primitive newcomers. The second group was angry. They called Daniel's agreement a betrayal of humanity. They said he had agreed to let an alien civilization use humans as breeding stock. They argued that this would mark humans forever as inferior, as creatures that could be used for the benefit of others. The third group was uncertain. They had questions that nobody could answer. Would the child be human, or where would it be raised? Who would control it? What if it became a weapon against humanity? Daniel let them argue. He knew they had a right to fear. He had felt that fear himself. But he also knew something that the government leaders did not know. He knew that was willing to think beyond what her own civilization had taught her, and he believed that was more important than any political advantage. Finally, the debate ended. The government gave Daniel permission to continue with the arrangement, but only with conditions. They wanted genetic experts present. They wanted the child to be born on neutral territory, not on a world. They wanted Daniel to marry, to make this a union between Earth and the Empire, not just a genetic experiment. When Daniel told about these conditions, something changed in her expression. She agreed immediately. More than that, she seemed relieved. "I did not want to hide this," she said. "I did not want my people to see this as something shameful or secret. I want them to understand that this is a union of two species choosing each other deliberately." But while and Daniel were making plans, trouble was brewing in the empire. The traditional leaders, the ones who had been in power for centuries, began to move against the queen. They called emergency sessions of the council. They argued that had become weak. They said that her interest in human emotion and human values proved that she was no longer thinking like a proper leader. They called the genetic program foolish and dangerous. The most powerful of these traditional leaders was called. He was old with scars on his face from 100 battles. He had served as a military commander for longer than most humans lived. "This queen has lost her way," declared in the council chambers. "She has spent too much time with these primitive creatures and has begun to think like them. She is willing to weaken bloodlines by mixing with them. This is treason against our entire civilization." Other council members nodded in agreement, but did not accept this judgment without fight. She returned to the council chambers herself, something a queen had not done in generations. Normally, a queen would send representatives to defend her, but wanted to speak for herself. "You call humans primitive," said, standing before the council. "I call them resilient. You fear what their genes might do to our bloodline. I see the possibility of saving our entire species from extinction. You want to keep things as they have always been. I want to build something new." She showed them the genetic data she had compiled. She showed them the projections for what a human hybrid child might be capable of. She explained that humanity had something they had lost: the ability to adapt, the ability to change, the ability to see value in others. For a moment, words seemed to affect the council. Some of the members began to look uncertain, but then stood up. "You speak like a human now," he said. "You speak of values and emotion and change. This proves that you are no longer fit to lead the empire. I am removing you from power, effective immediately." It was a dramatic moment. No council member had attempted to remove a queen in over 500 years, but had support. 4 other council members stood to join him. "The queen is hereby removed from command," announced. "She will stand trial for crimes against the species, and the genetic program with the human is terminated immediately." Word of this move reached Daniel within hours. He was shocked and angry. He wanted to do something, anything, to help, but she had other plans. She sent him a private message from her chambers where the traditionalists had placed her under guard. "Do not try to help me through force," her message said. "That will only prove their argument that humans make us weak. Instead, do something else. Come to the palace. Come openly. Show my people that you believe in me. Show them that your belief in me is stronger than fear. This is what humans understand that we have forgotten. This is what I need them to see." Daniel made a decision that shocked his own government. He took a personal transport to the palace. He went alone, with no guards and no weapons. He walked into the palace of the species that now saw him as a threat to their entire civilization. When the guards tried to stop him, he said only one thing: "I am here to stand with the Queen. Let me pass, or your actions will prove to your entire species that you are afraid of what one human can do." The guards hesitated. They had been trained to follow orders, but they had also been trained to recognize strength and conviction. Daniel showed both, so they let him pass. He found in her chambers. She was not bound or imprisoned as he had expected. She was standing at a window, looking out at her civilization, waiting. "You came," she said simply. "Of course I came," Daniel replied. "You asked me to show your people what humans understand. You asked me to show them that belief is stronger than fear. I will not let you face this alone." In that moment, standing in the chambers of a queen, a human commander from Earth understood something important. This was not just about genetic programs or political alliances anymore. This was about two individuals from completely different species choosing each other. And that choice, that belief in something beyond their own people, was the most powerful force either of them had ever known. The wedding was supposed to be the safest option. Both the traditional council and Earth's government agreed that a formal marriage would make the union legitimate. It would give the people a reason to support what was happening instead of seeing it as a betrayal or a weakness. The ceremony was planned for the neutral station called Outpost 7, a place that belonged to neither species exclusively. But nobody expected what happened next. 3 days before the wedding made his move. He did not send a message or call for debate. He sent warships. 12 massive military vessels surrounded Outpost 7, announced that he was taking control of the situation. He declared that was not fit to sign any agreements until her trial was complete, and he announced that the wedding would not happen. The commander of Outpost 7 was a human named Captain Robert Williams. He was experienced, but he had never faced this kind of crisis before. He contacted Daniel immediately. "The situation is critical, sir. We have a dozen military vessels surrounding the station. They are armed and they are not responding to normal negotiations. Is demanding that we turn over both you and Queen to his forces." Daniel was in his quarters when he received this message, was with him. They looked at each other, and without speaking, they both understood what had to happen. "We cannot give in," said. "If we surrender to, he will put me on trial and find me guilty before my people ever have the chance to understand what I am trying to do. He will destroy everything." Daniel nodded. "Then we fight, but not with weapons, with action." He called Captain Williams back. "Close all external doors to the station. Redirect power from non-essential systems to the defensive shields, and prepare the emergency communication network to broadcast through the fleet." Williams understood immediately. They were going to make a stand. Once forces attacked, they attacked a station that was ready for them. Daniel had studied the military tactics during his meetings with. He knew they relied on superior technology and overwhelming firepower. He knew they expected their enemies to fight with the same strategies. So he did something different. He used the station's layout against them. He sealed bulkheads to create corridors that were narrow and restricted, though with their larger bodies could not move quickly through these spaces. Their superior weapons were useless in tight corners where human ingenuity and knowledge of the station's design gave the defenders every advantage. Fought alongside Daniel, not from behind walls but in the front lines. She had been trained as a warrior before she became a queen. She moved through the station with perfect knowledge of combat tactics, knowing exactly what forces would do because she had been trained by the same people who trained them. But more importantly, she moved with purpose. Every who saw her standing shoulder to shoulder with a human learned something. They learned that their queen was willing to fight for what she believed in. They learned that humans were not weak creatures to be studied or controlled. They learned that their queen had not abandoned her people, but was fighting to save them from a future where they would refuse to change. The battle lasted for 6 hours. During that time, Daniel also prepared something else. He had Captain Williams broadcast a message through the communications network. The message was a recording of words to the council, combined with footage of her fighting to protect the station. The soldiers watching from their ships saw their queen standing with a human commander, fighting against their own people to protect something she believed in, and something shifted in them. This was not the weakness the traditionalists had described. This was the opposite of weakness. This was the strongest thing they had ever seen. When the final soldier was defeated, not killed, Daniel made sure of this, but defeated and captured, the station was secure. Forces had been driven back, and the fleet, watching their own soldiers being shown mercy by the enemy instead of being destroyed, began to withdraw. Himself appeared on every communication channel. He looked defeated, but he also looked angry. You have won this battle, but the people will not accept a half-breed queen. You will face judgment when you return to our worlds. Stepped in front of the communication display. She looked directly at the camera, directly at her own people. I am not asking for your acceptance, she said. I am showing you what is possible. I am showing you that change does not mean weakness. I am showing you that believing in something beyond yourself, beyond your species, beyond your fear, is the strength that our civilization lost 300 years ago. She paused. Daniel Hayes and I are getting married. We will have a child together, and that child will prove that two species can create something new, something stronger than what either of us could create alone. Anyone who wishes to stand with me in building this future is welcome. Anyone who chooses to live in the past can do so, but the future is coming whether you accept it or not. The communication ended. In the silence that followed, Captain Williams reported that the fleet had fully withdrawn. His rebellion was over. But Daniel understood that something more important had happened in this battle. It was not the military victory that mattered. It was that it stood before her entire civilization and chosen to believe in something new. And her people had seen her do it. Some of them would still resist. Some would still follow. But others, the younger ones, the ones willing to think for themselves, they had seen something different. They had seen their queen choose courage over fear. They had seen her stand with another species and fight not against her own people, but for a future that included them. As Daniel held after the battle was over, both of them tired and marked with the bruises of combat, he understood that the real battle had not been in the corridors of Outpost 7. The real battle had been in the hearts and minds of an entire civilization, forcing them to question everything they believed about strength and weakness, about other species, about change itself. And somehow, against all probability, they had won. 6 months after the wedding, lay in the medical chamber aboard the Joint Human Research Station. The pregnancy had progressed in ways that surprised both medical teams. The child developing inside her was healthy, more than healthy, actually. The child showed characteristics that neither species had predicted. The genetic material from Daniel had combined with genes to create something entirely new. The child would have some physical characteristics, but tempered by human flexibility. The child would have intelligence, but combined with the human capacity to understand emotion and value. The child would be strong, but not in just the way understood strength. Experience something that no queen had felt in generations. She experienced anticipation and fear and hope and joy all at the same time. She experienced what humans called motherhood, not as a biological function to be managed, but as an emotional reality that shook the foundations of everything her species had taught her. Her advisors did not know how to respond to this. Queens were not supposed to show emotion. They were not supposed to express concern or affection or hope, but did not try to hide what she felt. When the medical technician told her that the baby was moving, she placed her hand on her abdomen and felt the movement, and she smiled. A real smile, not the expression of satisfaction that typically displayed, but genuine joy. "This is what I did not understand," she told Daniel during one of his visits to the station. "This is what my species lost. We removed the ability to feel because we thought it made us weak, but we also removed the ability to hope for something beyond ourselves. We removed the ability to be truly alive." Daniel held her hand. "Your child will teach your people what that means." Back on Earth, preparations were different but equally profound. Daniel's family, his sister and her children, his parents, all gathered to prepare for his role as a father. For months, Daniel's choice had been debated throughout human society. Some people still saw it as a betrayal. Some people saw it as humanity's greatest achievement. But most people, by the time the pregnancy was confirmed, had come to understand that this was about something bigger than politics. This was about two individuals choosing to believe in each other and the future they wanted to create together. Daniel had left Earth only years before as a military commander. He returned as something different. He returned as a man who had fallen in love across the boundaries of species and who had chosen to build a life with someone from a civilization that had once seen humans as primitive. The day the child was born was celebrated on both worlds. The birth took place on Outpost 7, the neutral ground where the wedding had happened. The doctors told Daniel that he could be present, wanted him there. When she held the child for the first time, did something no queen would normally do. She cried, not with sadness but with overwhelming emotion that she did not have words for. The child was beautiful. The child was strong. The child was alive in a way that both of their species could understand. They named the child Morgan, a name that worked equally well in both human and languages. Morgan was born with silver-blue skin but with eyes that were distinctly human, dark and warm. The child had physical strength, but with the flexibility and adaptability that came from human genetics. The doctors said that Morgan would be healthier and stronger than either pure or human children. More important than the physical characteristics, Morgan carried something that both parents knew was crucial. Morgan carried the possibility of change. Morgan carried the proof that two species could create life together. Morgan carried the hope that maybe, just maybe, civilizations that had believed themselves to be superior could learn to see other beings as equals. In the weeks after Morgan's birth, the people began to change. Not all of them, and his followers still resisted. Still argued that the hybrid child represented a corruption of purity, but more and more of the younger began to request genetic materials and permission to bear children with other species. The genetic program that had started became not just a solution to their population problem, but a transformation of their entire civilization. On Earth, humanity celebrated Morgan's birth as a symbol of their arrival as equals among the galaxy's great powers. But for Daniel, it meant something simpler and more beautiful. It meant that his child would grow up in a universe where two species had chosen to believe in each other. It meant that Morgan would prove to both thee and to humans that change was possible. It meant that love, in whatever form it took, could bridge even the deepest divides. One evening, Daniel stood together with Morgan in the observation chamber of Outpost 7. The station orbited a blue star, and the light from that star illuminated their child's face. Daniel held his hand. She held Morgan against her chest. The two of them, human and, looked at the universe together through the eyes of someone who belonged to both species and neither. "Do you regret it?" Daniel asked. "Do you regret the choice you made?" Was quiet for a moment. "My people taught me that emotion was weakness. My people taught me that other species were beneath our consideration. My people taught me that the only thing that mattered was maintaining our superior status. And I believed all of this because I did not know anything else." She looked down at Morgan. "But this child is not a weakness. This child is proof that I was wrong about everything my people taught me. This child is the strongest thing I have ever seen because this child carries the possibility to become something new." She turned to Daniel. "No, I do not regret it. I have never been more certain of anything in my life." Morgan reached up with small fingers and touched his face. The moment was simple and ordinary and absolutely extraordinary. A human father, a mother, and a child that would change the galaxy forever, looking out at the stars together. The war between and the rest of the galaxy would not end immediately. The resistance from traditionalists would continue for years. The transformation of culture would happen slowly and painfully at times. But in that moment, looking at their child, Daniel and knew that the most important battle had been won. They had proven that change was possible. They had proven that love could exist across species lines. They had proven that humans, with their remarkable capacity to see the good in others and to believe in a different future, had a gift that even the most advanced civilization in the galaxy had lost. And their child, Morgan, would carry that gift forward into a future that nobody could yet imagine.